Hi, my name's April Marroquin, and Brooklyn asked me to do a special presentation today on how I use the line art that she provides with her pageant wear line to design my pageant bodice before I even buy fabric or lace or start stitching or cut anything. I am a little OCD, and I like to know exactly what I'm doing and not get to the end of my project and realize that I hate it because something is off to me. So I try to mitigate that by planning in advance. The bodice that I'm doing for the Decorate Along and the Sew Along is actually just using scrap fabrics left over from previous clients. And I just had some scraps, and so first I decided I wanted to use those two colors together, and then I had to go from that. Because of the fabrics I was using, it was leaning towards a very aerial looking pageant bodice, which isn't bad, just not the look I was going for because I didn't want it to look theme wear. I wanted it to be a definite beauty dress that I'm actually making for my niece. So I've opened up here in Photoshop. This is Photoshop Elements. You can do it in regular Photoshop. There's also 2 free programs available that you can use to do the same thing. I'm going to show you digitally on the computer, and then I'm also going to show you how to do it on paper for people that don't want to use the computer. But for me, the computer is a lot easier and actually takes less time, but I did have a learning curve on how to use it. So I'm happy to answer questions if people have them, but hopefully this answers some of those basics. The free programs you can use are Paint.net or GIMP. G-I-M as in Mary, P as in Paul. Those are 2 free programs that are like Photoshop. They can be a little different to use and less tutorials online, but there are plenty of tutorials for what we're doing. We're not doing extreme photo editing. We're just doing some of the basic things. So the GIMP and the Paint programs would provide this. You don't have to go out and buy Photoshop if you want to learn how to use it digitally. Those should have the capacities to do this. So once I've opened up the line art in Photoshop, I have to decide what layers I want to create out of this bodice. And in this one, it's Graceland naturally has the color block option in it. So I'm going to select this magic wand tool over here, and that is something that allows me to pick a section, and I want to make it contiguous. If it's not contiguous and I click, it will, I don't know if you can see this, but it outlines everything that's white because I clicked on white. I don't want everything that's white to be the same color. I want to use different fabrics and make this color blocked. So I'm just going to Control Z to undo that. And then I'm going to click on the contiguous again so I can pick just one section at a time. The first fabric that I have is this sequin, mint sequin spandex that I got from spandexworld.com. I actually just took this picture off of their website and I copied and pasted it into my program. So I have it on a separate layer here, but that's not helping because it's not in the shape I want it to be. So I'm going to hide that again and come back in here and select the layer that I wanted to do in that fabric. I'm going to go up to the program menus, and under layer there is a new layer via cut. I'm going to go ahead and cut that. And what that does is that if I hide that, it creates a separate layer with just that shape in it. So I can now unlock my, or unhide my fabric layer that I've put on top of it, and then I can do Control G, and that groups them together and does a clipping mask. So if you're doing Paint.net or GIMP, you'll need to find out the shortcut to do the clipping mask. It was similar years ago, but it's been a while since I've used either one of those programs. So I just cut that to the shape that I wanted. The next thing that I had on my bodice was I had some, let's see, I had the salvage edge. I really was using scraps. That's my secret. I have the salvage edge of my sequin fabric that didn't have the sequins on it, and it was just wide enough that I was able to get the straps and the ruffles for the Graceland bodice out of that. So I've selected now all 5 of those areas, and again I'm going to do layer, new, via cut. And so now I have that layer underneath my mint fabric layer. So I have the color that I've selected. I just picked a color off of, you know, anything, or you can also pick it out of the text boxes or the shapes, and you can also go into this menu and pick a color that closely resembles the fabric that you're going to be using. So I had already picked the colors, and I've dropped the paint just in there on to fill the whole layer with paint. So I'm going to now draw sorry, not draw. I can't even talk today, man. I've been getting over a cold. So I'm actually going to drag that layer down. Oh, I actually, looks like when I painted my whole layer white on accident. So I'm going to drag that blue layer down until it's on top of the layer that's got my ruffles and my, let me show you that. So my ruffles and my straps in it. And again, I'm going to have my straps and that under it, and the color I want it to be on top to represent the fabric I'm using. And I'm just going to Control G, or do the clipping mask shortcut. And then I'm going to repeat that again with the magic wand tool. And on this one, I've accidentally selected the blue layer. So it's saying I have the blue layer, and that's not what I want. So I'm going to Control G or Control Z on that to undo. And I'm going to go and make sure I'm clicked on my bodice line art layer. And then I can click on the section that I want to be purple. Layer, new layer via cut. And then I'm going to take this purple color that I've painted, and I'm going to drag it down on top of that and do the clipping mask again. So that gives me my basic fabric bodice, and with that I feel comfortable going ahead and cutting out my fabrics and sewing it together. So that's a great start. But once that's done, the big question is, what lace do I use and where do I put it? And how is it going to look when it's done? Am I going to even like it? I don't have a mannequin. Some people will make the lace and just pin it on and move it around and kind of decorate it that way. I don't, and I also have to buy my lace. I order it from somebody, so they custom stitch it out for me, and I don't want to be ordering a ton of lace that's extra that I'm not even going to use and then find out that I need to have a couple of different pieces and have to pay for them again and ship them and do all of that, and it's kind of a hassle, and it can get expensive if you do a lot of extra lace, especially if you're ordering it or having it custom made, or you're going to waste a lot of time if you're trying to stitch it out yourself and you don't have a really good idea of how many you want or need, or even what colors you're using. So this is what I do, is I go in here. Okay, so I'm just going to open up a piece of lace here, and this is the preview that I got off the website, the listing, when I bought the lace file. Okay, so I have this lace, and I know that the lace is 3.5 inches wide by 4 inches high. And her photo isn't exactly straight on, but that doesn't actually really matter because it will still give me a good idea on the size of the lace and where I want it positioned and how many of them I need to fulfill the design I'm doing. So we've got that lace there, and I've cropped that out to the size that the lace is. And then I'm going to take the eraser tool and just get rid of all this excess little white around here so that that doesn't get in the way of using the lace later. With the black, we're going to take this handy magic wand tool again, and we're going to leave it as not contiguous, because we don't just want the outside edge of this section. We actually want everything that's black. We want all of the background gone. We just want it to be the lace shape. So I'm going to undo that, and I'm going to change it to not have contiguous checked. And then I'm going to click, and I'm going to make sure that that gets all of those little layers in there, and it looks like there's some missing. So I'm going to zoom in, and it looks like there's some kind of orangish black that it didn't pick up. So I'm going to click with making sure that this is selecting that I'm adding a color. And then I'm just going to click a couple more times in a couple of those different spaces to just make sure I have really good coverage for that lace. And once I have that, I'm going to go back out to where I can see it, and I'm going to do the layer, the new via cut again, and that takes that black and puts it all in a new layer up top, and it leaves me with a lace shape. Not perfect. There's, if you look close, you know, it's very rough. On this bodice, I knew that I wanted to use a pink color, but maybe I also wanted to use a blue color. So I'll just go and select a color, just, you know, whatever color I want, and I'll, in my new layer that I created, see, I can create as many layers as I want there, and throw them away if I don't need them. I'm going to use my paint bucket tool, and I'm going to just drop a bunch of paint on top there. And you guessed it, we're going to do the Control G, and we're going to just clip it to that. So now we have a good lace shape. I like to make sure that the lace stands out, so I will actually right click, flatten image, or merge visible. Actually, it's merge visible. The flatten image will bring back our white background, and we don't want that, then we have to redo everything. We want it to be see-through. So when we put it on the bodice, we just see the lace. So we're going to merge the visible, and that leaves that background clear. You can see the gray and white checks. That means it's transparent. And then it leaves our lace on top. I use the effects, and then I use the styles and strokes, and I just put a simple black stroke around it, and that helps the lace stand out to me. Sometimes I don't want it to be black because it's too harsh, so I can actually go into my layers now. I was on the effects menu adding in styles, strokes, and then I added a very small thin stroke, but I can do, I mean, huge if I wanted. But I just have that thin stroke. Maybe we'll do it a little thicker. And then we'll go back to our layers menu, and now there's this little FX that's popped up on our layer. I can double click on that, and it gives me some options. I can make the stroke bigger now and change it, and I can also change the color of it. So it doesn't have to be such a harsh contrast from my lace, but still lets me see what my lace looks like. So sometimes I'll play with that. Again, that's completely optional, not necessary. The OCD person in me just wants it to look really good, even though it's a simple basic project. So I have my lace here, and then I can save that, and I can put it into my page, or I can actually just go down here into my photo bin, and it has all of the files that I've been working with open, and I can go and click on that bodice that I'm working on, and I can just drop that lace on there. Now that's way too big and obviously not going to work because we know that my lace is 3.85 by 4 inches tall. So I'm actually going to go and put this up here in the top corner. I'm going to resize it down until it's approximately 4 inches, just according to my best guesstimate. And then I'm going to click OK. And then I can drag down a guideline to exactly the 4-inch mark and see if my lace ends at that 4-inch mark. So that gives me a good idea on how big that lace is supposed to be. And then I can play around with it and decide where it needs to go on my bodice. This looks really small. this bodice is, but this is actually one of the baby sizes. So it's the bodice, when you measure it, is 8.5 inches wide, and this, or 8.25 inches wide, and on here it's a little bit less. It's only 7 inches wide. So my lace, because it's so small, isn't going to fit on this version. But I can use my calculator and come up with the same ratio and narrow that down, or I can just, let's delete that out of there, or I can create a new blank file. And I know that my bodice, we're going to do a custom size. I know that my bodice width is 8.25 inches, but if you notice, there's a little extra for the ruffle. So we're just going to be safe, and I'm going to do a 12-inch wide by a 16-inch high document. And I'm going to take my drag lines out, and I'm going to say, okay, here is 8.25, so I know how big my bodice is supposed to be. And then I can take the bodice file and put that, whoa, where did I get all those extra files from? And I can drag and drop the file I'm working on onto my blank canvas. Let it think for a minute. Or a lot of minutes. Apparently it's having a hard time. I've liked all of the bodices that have shown up in the decorate along so far. You gals are way creative, by the way. I get inspired by some of the things that you guys do. So many pretty things to make and so little time in this world. So I am just changing the size of that layer by dragging the corner. And I'm going to move my bodice over, because remember I measured my 8.25 inches from the edge of the paper. And then I want to make sure the edge of the other side of my bodice is that as close to that 8.25 line as possible. So that's probably the closest I can get. Lining up this bodice line on the side. Alright, so if you notice, this side of the bodice is on the 0 line up here, just on the edge of the canvas board that we've got, and then the other one's on that 8.25 inch guideline that I drew out. And then I can center my bodice, and then I know that the bodice is close to the finished size of the garment that I've sewn, and then I can put my lace on that layer and it will drop it into a new layer, so that lets me move it around and do different things with it. And again, it's too big, so we can take our guideline and we can move it over, because we know it's the 4 inches. It's just short of 4 inches wide. So that was 4 3/8. I can do it the other way because I know it's 4 inches tall. And then just make sure that that's the right size for my lace. And then I've got a pretty good idea of how big my lace is going to be and where I can start moving it around and fitting it on my bodice. So this piece of lace for this particular bodice might be a little big for the area that I was thinking I could put it in. But you can play around and decide where you want to put it. That's the beauty of it. I'm actually going to go back into this other file that I was working with earlier this morning, getting ready for this for you. And I already have several of my layers built because we just put in those in there, but I've already done several of my laces, and I've just done that black outline, and I've made sure that they're to scale, and I've found all the small and big. This one's a 4x4 lace, and I just, you know, make them and I drag them on, and then I just start moving them around, and I'm like, oh, this one will look really good here. Oh, I'm actually moving the wrong layer. Make sure you're checked on the layer you want to move. So maybe I don't like this one here. Maybe I want this one to go behind the purple because I want that purple flower to pop a little more. I can do that. Or actually that's a really harsh line and it cuts it off really funny. I can twist them a little bit if I want to angle them. But I can move them around and decide what I want. And just start layering them on. So I have my, you know, lace here up at my sleeves. If the lace goes over the edge, of where you want it to be, then you just use your eraser so you can erase those edges. I have, like right here, this lace and this lace might hang off my bodice if that's what I want. It might curve around to the back if that's what I want. So I can actually take my eraser tool, select that, and I can actually like cut it off where it's going to wrap around the bodice if I don't want to see that on my preview. And on lace where, let's see if I can erase these so you can see them. So this lace here was a very long strip similar to this purple lace that we've got down here at the bottom. So let me bring that, so if you can see that lace that's flashing at the bottom there. These sleeve laces were that, it's the same lace, but because of the freestanding lace file, I can actually clip that off wherever I need to as far as length goes, and it's a continuous. So I can just keep adding them on and it's seamless look once I'm done. So I can just take my eraser tool and I just cut those off because I don't want them to extend all the way down into the middle of my bodice. It's just not something that I want on this look, but not wrong. You can take your lace and you can twist and turn it. So right here, I just took that same lace and then turned it 90 degrees, and then I turned it another 90, and I just laid them out until I wanted them where I wanted to be. And then you can just keep adding on and layering on layers. So this one, I'm going to do some 3D embroidered flowers on nylon chiffon, and it's going to have, you know, just something that will pop 3D there. And then I looked at this and I thought, man, there just needs to be a little bit more, something else that's going on. So I went back and I thought this purple just looks so plain, and I started to play with it and I added a new layer on top of it, and I'm going to clip mask it to that layer. So anything I do stays on that cut out purple shape that we made before. So it's this white shape that I just made pop up there. Let me put on my clipping masks again. So I've got that blank layer just over my purple layer. I'm on a blank layer and not directly on my layer because I do not want this to be permanent, because I don't know what I want in this area just yet. So I'm going to just start playing around, and you don't have to have lace files. You can just play, and I'm actually just taking the paintbrush right now, and I've got that. Oh, that's a pretty okay size. Let's set it to 50. So it's just a tad bit smaller, and just start playing around and seeing, oh, what would happen if I, you know, did kind of a sequin rhinestone look over here. Okay, well, that's really not working for me. I don't really like that, so I was able to delete that layer and create a new layer and clip and mask again. And then I thought, what if I did like ribbons and kind of appliqued a ribbon on top of this section, so it would give it kind of a little country garden look, is kind of what I was thinking. English rose garden. My niece is named, one of her names is Rose, and so I really wanted this to just be inspired by her name, and she's the sweetest, beautiful little girl you can imagine, and it's just a doll. And I wanted something that would be very delicate and feminine and just, you know, kind of also fun. She's, you know, very young, just a toddler. And so something just fun and creative and not too sophisticated. So I wanted it to be just light and airy. So I chose these pastel colors, partially because they were scraps that I had, and partially because I thought it would really just pop with her skin tone and just be something fun and lighthearted for her to wear. But I liked that ribbon look, and so I decided to applique that on my bodice. But I can play around and hide the layers, and if there's something that I'm just not sure about, and I'm thinking, you know, I really don't like the green on that ruffle. I wonder what it would look like if that ruffle and the sleeve were purple. I didn't have enough fabric to have that choice, but I can take this purple layer, and I can right click and duplicate it. And then I can move that duplicated layer on top of that green layer that I had before, move it into place so it's covering my whole drawing, and then do that clip mask, and I can see, oh yeah, that might be, you know, actually what I prefer. And I can do the same thing with a pink. I can check it out with purple and white and silver. I can do, you know, pretty much anything. And if I, you know, maybe I don't like this in pink, maybe I think it's too much pink or too little pink, but I don't want to redraw my lines, I can again do a new layer. I can find a color that I want. For this one, we're going to do the green color, that mint, and I'm going to select that color and use my paint drop tool. You can see it filled that whole blank layer up with the paint, and I'm just going to clip mask it, and then I can see what a mint ribbon would look like on my grid. Maybe I've decided that I really don't like that. It's too busy and too much, that I don't want an ultra glitz bodice, just, you know, something a little more semi-glitz or even more on the natural side. Then that's an option too. So that's how I use Photoshop. And I hope that helped you. Again, GIMP and Paint.net are both free programs that do similar options. But not everyone is computer savvy, not everyone's comfortable with this, and for some people this would just be a headache and really hard to figure out. So I'm going to actually show you today too how to do the same process in Word. It's not the exact same, so don't get me wrong. It's a little more low tech, it's a lot easier to do. Once you have your lace files here, you can save them in a PDF file and then just print them off as you need them. And we're actually going to take these in a few minutes, and I'm going to show you how you can use the paper line arts, just print it off, and some crayons or coloring pencils or markers, and these digital lace PDF files that we're going to make right now. And you can actually just have your daughter cut them out, or you can glue and paste them yourself, and you can just have them there so you can just know if you buy a lace, you make the file, you have a lot of them, you can print them out when you want them, and then you can just play around with them. And then you don't have to go and do it digitally each time. It can be something that's a little more streamlined, I guess. So this is the second option. So I'm just in Microsoft Word right now, and I have several of my lace files open here that I've already made. But I'm going to go ahead and delete one of them, and we're going to go and insert picture from file, and I'm going to show you how I made this lace, because if you noticed when we were working with this lace piece before, it was a bright orange color. Some of mine are bright blue, some are hot pink, some are yellow. They do that so that the designs are easily seen when you're purchasing your lace files, and also probably so people don't pirate the photos and claim that they're theirs or whatnot. But that is going to be really hard to work with an orange file on my blue and purple periwinkle mint bodice. The orange will just clash, and it's going to be really hard to see if I like the lace or not and distinguish between the color. Okay, so we've got one of my lace files there, and I've inserted that into my file, so I can see that now. It's all the way down here at the bottom. It's kind of doing its own little thing and won't move around. It's being stubborn. So that's easy to fix. I need to right click on it. I need to wrap text, and I need to change it from inline with text and make it square or tight, or I just do square. And now that will let me move that in the document wherever I want. Now we've got a lot of wasted space around here that I'm not going to want to print off. So I'm going to go and I'm going to do the crop button up here on the top right. And I'm going to drag these in until I get to those marker lines that let me know what size. This lace, again, it's a 4x4. This one's exactly a 4x4. So I'm going to clip that in as close to those lines as possible. Now you'll notice that those lines aren't exactly straight, and that's just because the photo wasn't taken straight on. But again, it's not going to affect much what I'm using this for. So that's going to work just good. Once I have that into the size or the shape of those lines, I'm going to go up here and I'm going to, with the height and the width, I'm going to take the biggest one because I don't want my lace to be too big. I'd rather it be a little bit smaller than bigger. And I'm going to do my width as 4 inches and leave them locked with this check mark here so it doesn't distort it, and that will give me my 4x4 inch lace size, which is awesome. So once we've got that, we can unclick it, and now we can move it around on our file and save paper, and we can print out several of these on one. But how do we get it white? Because later I'm going to actually color. I'm going to cut out the edges, just, you know, a simple cutout around the edge, just not detailed, but enough so that I don't have all the black squares on my bodice when I'm decorating it. And I'm going to use colored pencils, crayons, or markers, and I'm going to color the lace the color that I'm going to want to make it when I have the lace sewn. But I can't do that with the blue or orange or yellow. It makes it a little harder to color this pink if it's already got a blue on it. And if I print this out in color, with the color on there in black and white, it's going to actually print out as a gray, and that's going to also make it really hard to color my photos in. And some of the darker colors actually will print out a very dark black, so it may be even impossible to even see what your lace is going to look like. So what I do is I go over here to the format picture section, and there's a lot of options over here. But where I go is I go to this very last one where it has the picture, and it has color collection, picture corrections and picture color, and I just drop that saturation all the way down, and the temperature all the way up, and that makes the black a little blacker, and the black a little blacker, and the color disappears, and that for me works really well. So I'll fill a whole page of these, and then I'll just print them off, and then I can start working with my scissors and markers and crayons, and I can start designing a bodice at my kitchen table. Hi, this is April Marroquin again. I'm just finishing up this tutorial about using the line art that I've been showing you. So we just finished doing the pieces on Word, Microsoft Word, and this is what I had printed out today, just in black and white, just a simple full file. And all I did was take my kids' crayon collection, pick the color of lace I was going to be using. Maybe I want this to be lime, and I just colored it the color that I thought my lace would be. Now again, we're doing this because we may change our minds. We may find out that green doesn't coordinate so well with the color that we thought. And then I just take, these are just kitty scissors even, like I literally just robbed my kids' collection. And it's just a rough cut. This is not precision cutting. This is just to get some of that black out there and get the piece so that you can get a general idea on where you're going to place it and what you're going to do with it. So again, just trying to make this as super quick and fast as possible, because we all know that what we really want to do is see the actual object come to life. Once you have your lace pieces done, and I actually have cut them out just white and colored them later. It's a little bit harder to do that, but that's an option too, because sometimes you don't know what color you need it to be until you have it on your bodice. So I have just printed out the line art that I already pre-colored with my fabric, but you can just take the regular line art, print it out, and color it the same way, either using markers or crayons, colored pencils, pastels, whatever you have available to you. Now on my bodice, I have decided that I'm actually going to applique ribbon on there, and it's already on there. So I'm going to just put that on there so I can have an idea on where that is and what it looks like. Again, it's not perfect. If I wanted to get out my ruler and make it perfect, I could. But that's not the point of this. It's to give me a plan on what I want it to look like when it's all done. So then I just start layering on my lace and deciding where things are going to go and what I'm going to do. So this piece of lace here, I'm actually going to cut because I know this is for my bodice straps. So I can just take my glue stick or tape or whatever, and I can just put that on there. And the reason I can cut this and feel confident is because I've done this piece of lace before, And I know that you can cut it pretty much anywhere and it doesn't fray or tear apart. So it's really forgiving that way. Then I had some pieces down here, and they were right here. But, okay, I need something in the middle, so I'm not going to do those just yet. I have this piece, but because this is an infant bodice, this piece is just way too big. But because I've used this lace before, I know that I can clip these little strands here, and this piece comes apart perfectly fine. And then I have two smaller little pieces that I can attach how I want. Now this piece will wrap around to the back of the bodice, and I'll continue with a couple more pieces there all the way to the back corset. And then I have some more pieces here that I'm actually going to layer on. And I can play and move around, and I can do different designs, but this is just the design that I know I've already worked up and that I already like. So I'm just going to decide where I want that seam. Now I know on my finished product I'm doing a 3D rose, so I'm actually going to have this overlap here at the bottom where I know that rose is going to hide it. And then I think I want these on top like that. And then we'll have these over here, but this I want to go behind. So we'll go ahead and put those on there so they go behind this other piece, which will be the background for our 3D rose. And that's how I do my bodice designs using the line art. It's really rough and simple, but it works for me because then I can say, hey, to my lace manufacturer, I can say, hey, I need one of this piece. I need 1, 2, 3 of these ones in purple. I need 2 of this flower piece, but one needs to be pink and one needs to be purple. I need this scallop piece and whatever I've decided that I'm going to do on my back side. And then I just have to buy those pieces. She's not wasting time making extra lace. I'm not buying extra lace. If I'm making it myself, I'm not making extra lace and wasting all that thread for lace that I'm not going to use. And then having to save it and store it all because I might use it in the future and I don't want to throw it away. So that's how I use the line art. I hope that gives you some inspiration and some tools to use to make your creations come to life. Thanks for watching.